and we sit down and we learn about a topic. And since I am new to YouTube, new to sharing content here, I'd love to let you know because this is a place. Nope, it won't. Disregard. I'm trying some things out here because I'm new to the whole YouTube live platform. So at any rate, I'm Demita McGee. I'm a Christian women's business coach. I wish I could turn all of this around so it wasn't backwards, but it is a pleasure to connect with you. It truly is a pleasure to be able to use this platform. This is something that is really, really brand new for me, but I'm pretty pumped about being able to share this way. So welcome to the Christian Women's Business Academy YouTube channel. What is the Academy? Why are we here? The purpose of the Academy is this. There are people like me out here who want to learn how to own and operate a business using biblical principles. Just that. We want to learn how to do it that way. That's what the Academy is all about. Of course, you can join us. We have a community on Facebook, and it goes by the exact same name, the Christian Women's Business Academy. And everything we do is about funding kingdom projects. Why kingdom projects? Because one thing that I did not know before was that every bit of money that we spend, every single piece, what I did not understand was we could use it to fund kingdom projects or we could use it for something else. Well, I didn't understand that concept until recently, over the last several months, and I started learning more and more about what that means. And so we offer an environment and a community where we edify one another. We use our gifts and our talents, our natural gifts, our God given gifts. We use them to edify the kingdom. We use them to please God, but we also use them to earn a living, make a profit, if you will. And so I help women go from the obscurity. I have an idea, I don't have a clue what to do with it. From there, I help them go from there to clarity. And that's what I do as a Christian women's business coach and help you function and have an intuitive business. And so that's a fancy way of saying trust your gut. Follow what it is, the directions that God's giving you and leading you towards, even if you don't necessarily understand that that's his voice leading you. And so you got to trust your inner me. All right. And so that is really what we do in the Christian Women's Business Academy. We base everything off of principles, which are biblical principles, because principles, you can't get around them. And so, even in business, one of the things that we don't understand as believers oftentimes is that even in business, there are principles that we have to follow. Just because we don't necessarily understand those principles, know how to function in those principles, or even know the principles exist, doesn't mean that we can't operate in them. So, for example, someone that I know gave a really great example of this one day, and I'm just going to use it because it was amazing. And so the example was this: gravity. We all know that if you drop something, that it's going to fall because it's a law of gravity. That if I hold a penny up here and I let go of it, it's going to fall. So anything will fall if it's not grounded, right? It doesn't matter if you understand the law of gravity. It doesn't matter if you've ever been taught it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go to the most remote jungle of the world. It doesn't matter. If you climb to the top of the highest tree in that remote jungle and you let go, even someone who hasn't been educated on gravity itself understands that when they let go, they're going to fall. And so that's a principle at place that regardless of whether or not you understand it, you know that it's going to be. That's how biblical principles are. Regardless of whether or not you truly understand them, that doesn't matter. They're still principles. And so, in figure out how in the world to use these principles in our favor, out what the principles mean, if we could just learn what they are, we'd have a much more fulfilling business and definitely a much more fulfilling life. And that's what we do in the Christian Women's Business Academy. So, this particular channel is just for that, to give you specific strategies to help you learn how to use those principles, learn what the principles are, and to give you tangible tools that you can use to grow your business using biblical principles. The interesting thing about this is I learned a little about it and then I fell in love with this book, which I'm sure is going to pop up backwards. It's called Business Secrets. Let's see if we can get it. There it is. It's called Business Secrets of the Bible. The author is Daniel Lapin. Phenomenal book. As a matter of fact, we've been having a book club about this very book in our community, the Christian Women's Business Academy, which affectionately from here on out, I'll just call the Academy. So we've been having a Bible study, not Bible study, but a book club about this book since the beginning of the year. And we are going on to meeting number 3 later on this month. So if you'd like to join us, I'll make sure that there is a link for that. This book changed so much about how I understood business, how I understood principles in the Bible as they relate to business, as they relate to entrepreneurship, and even as they relate to my own personal life. So this book is incredible, and that's why we decided to study it for the first quarter of the year. So, what is today about? I wanted to share with you who we are, why I'm here, who I am, why I do what I do, why I'm led to do it. And today I wanted to talk briefly about a topic, which is what do we learn from the ark? I know that sounds crazy. What can Noah's Ark, the account of Noah's Ark, actually teach us about biblical principles? Sounds really, really crazy, right? But it's true. Okay, so hold on. I am going to pull up this information right now and I'm going to share this with you now. There are things, four specifically, that we learned from the story of Noah's Ark. You guys know the story. I'm sure you know the story. If you're watching this channel, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the story that God comes to Noah one day and he lets him know this just how unhappy he is with the way things are going in the world, that people are, they've been violent, and that he's just going to literally wipe out the entire population of people, of animals, of every breathing and living thing. And so he tells Noah, he gives him specific direction on how to build an ark. And so he builds this ark that is literally over 450 feet long. I don't think people truly understand how big this thing was. So he builds this ark, and what he told him to do with the ark was this. He said, I want you to get two of every animal, a pair of each, a male, a female. You guys know the story, so we don't have to go through the whole thing. For some animals, he said, I want you to get 7 pairs. For other animals, it was just 1 pair. And then I want you to take your sons, your wife, your sons' wives, your children. I want you to get onto the ark as well. And then it's going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And I'm going to flood the whole thing. By the time it was over, which was almost a year later, by the time everything dried and they were able to come out of the ark, by the time everything was all over, they were starting all over again by the time the land was dry. And so it was at that point that God said, you know what? I will never again will I um, destroy every living thing if man grieves my heart. And in order to seal that covenant, I'm going to place a rainbow in the sky. So we have a reminder so often when it rains of God's covenant that he made with Noah and also with us, that he would never again destroy the earth by flood. And every time we see a rainbow, we know what that's for, right? This is the cool thing. There are so many things in that particular account that you can apply to business. And I know that's very different because I know people haven't necessarily done that before. What's up, sis? How are you? I know people haven't necessarily done that before. So let's kind of get into what those things are. Now, there are four. I'm going to share a couple of them with you today. Just a couple, not all four, but I'm going to share a couple of them with you today. The reason is because I wrote this tremendous blog article about it, and I'd love for you to read the last two in that article. But I'm going to give you a couple things right now. How's that sound? All right. And then, guys know this video would be really long if we really went into everything in detail. So my initial thoughts of the timeline when it comes, or my initial thoughts of the flood is that I originally, because it's easy to read through various accounts in the Bible and stories in the Bible, and because they are one chapter or two chapters, you think that they're short stories. This was a really long account. This took place over literally like a year. This whole account of the ark. And so we don't realize that it wasn't just 40 days and 40 nights that they were in this ark. Listen, God came to Noah, and this is the thing that a lot of people do understand. He asked him to do something that seemed like insurmountable. I did not know until I started studying just how big this thing was. Now, if you imagine, it has to be big to house two of every type of animal and his family and their children. But I honestly didn't realize how big it was. It was like 450 feet long. Noah didn't have cranes like we have. He didn't have the kind of construction machinery that we have today. He literally had to build that thing from scratch, and he did. God gave him the specific instructions to do it, and he followed those instructions to a T. Now, we all know, if you've seen the movie Evan Almighty, we all know that it is, your family may think you're absolutely crazy when you say, listen, God came to me and he told me it's going to flood. And so I got to build this super huge boat. And we got to go on there and we got to lock ourselves in and we got to get one of every animal. But there were a couple of things about this account that was just absolutely incredible. One of the things that I love about Noah himself, one of the things that I absolutely love is that he just trusted. Somehow God Noah found favor in God's eye. It tells us that he found favor. It tells us that he was a just man. In Genesis 6 and 9, it tells us that Noah was a just man. And so one of the things that I get from that, he found favor in God's eye because he was just, right? Yeah, I know you're laughing because it was humongous. So he found favor in God's eye. And so that's why God went to him and he just trusted him blindly and started building this massive boat, which is incredible to me. How many of us will have that kind of blind faith when God would ask us to do something? In a lot of cases, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, we don't. We question whether or not we can do it. We question whether or not we'll have the resources. We question, this is really big, guy. This is a 450-foot boat. How is it possible for me to do that with my bare hands? Noah just did it. And so, one of the things that I find amazing about this particular story and account in the Bible is that he just did it. See, there's a blessing in just doing it. The reality is, if God chooses you for such a miraculous assignment, He's going to equip you to be able to do it. Like, it's incredible. Now, we can talk about that for a long time, but read the blog, it'll go more into that. But I want to point out something else that's really, really huge because we're already 12 minutes into this video. And that is this, that if God gives you this really big assignment, He'll make provision for you to be able to actually execute it. I know a lot of you guys have heard that before, but this is the account of the Bible that's amazing to me in this story. I'm going to find it in my notes here, but I'm just skipping to it while we're talking. And that is that there is a place in this story where the animals, the pairs of animals, came to Him. I'm going to let that resonate for a minute. So Noah does what God tells him to do. He builds this ark. He builds it under the specific guidance. He builds it using the specific instruction that God gives him. God says, I want you to put two of every animal, a male and a female, in this ark. I want you to put two of everyone in there because once you guys are free to come out, we're going to reproduce and fill the earth again. But at that point in the story, he didn't tell him that he didn't tell him how he was going to get these animals. He just told him, you're going to put them on the boat. So I'm sure in Noah's mind, it may have seemed even more overwhelming. Like, first of all, I got to build this massive boat by hand because I'm pretty sure that they didn't near the construction equipment that we have today. I can pretty much say that with absolute certainty. So he uses whatever technology they have at the time to build this boat. And God says, you know what? I want you to put two of every animal on there. He didn't tell him at that time. See, Noah just said, okay, but in his mind, someplace he had to be thinking, how am I going to get two of every animal on this boat? I don't even know what two of every animal is. He just trusted. See, God told him, I want you to start. Noah started. He took the necessary steps. And the part about it that's just amazing is when it says that God literally says to him, or when God says that I'm going to and tell me he's going to send them. I want to find this scripture, you guys, really, really quickly. So bear with me because I'm reading through my notes really fast and can't find it. The amazing thing about this was that God literally starts to send the animals his way. He sends them. That's incredible. Noah didn't know that that was going to happen. That was the part of the story that was kind of left out when God explained what he wanted him to do in the beginning. But as he trusts God and just does what he tells him to do, what he tells him to do, things just start to unfold. See, God's going to tell you to do something and not give you a provision to be able to do it. He may not let you know initially what that provision is going to be. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. Just trust blindly. That's the hard part. That's the difficult part for a lot of us because we want to know, how are we supposed to even be able to do what you're asking us to do, God? Can you show me the tools? Can you show me the resources? God didn't show that to Noah at that time. Once he built the ark, God started to send the animals. Incredible, right? Think about what that means for you and your business. God says, I want you to start this business. God says, I want you to do this thing, and you don't understand how you're supposed to do it. But your first step is blind faith. Faith is currency. Faith is a walk. Faith is an action. Faith is not just something that you think about. Faith is an action. Because when you have faith in what God is telling you to do, you actually do something in response to what it is he shared with you to do. So Noah did something. He started building, he started creating, he started hammering, he started putting the plans in place, he started executing. And as things start to come together, God sends the animals in pairs his way. I'm trying to see really quickly if I can find it. Hold on, guys. Um Literally in Genesis chapter 6, he tells him in verse 19, and of every living thing of all flesh, you shall bring two of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. Right? He says, they shall be male and female, of the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds, and of every creeping thing on the ground according to its kind. Two of every sort shall come in to you to keep them alive. Also, take with you every sort of food that is eaten and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them. Listen to this. Verse 22. Noah did this. He did all that God commanded. Noah didn't worry. He just did what God commanded him to do. I don't know if you guys realize how profound that is. Like, that's a big deal. So later on, we understand. Let's see if I can find it. I really want to find this. Um, hold on. Do, 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 do. Mm, 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 mm. I can't find it really fast, you guys. You know what? I'm going to see if I can find it and drop it in the comments because I really want you guys to see that yourself in I want you to actually see it for yourself in the word. I want you to see it in the Bible yourself. Now, another thing that I want you guys to know about that we're going to talk about really briefly before we get out of here today. We already talked about Noah's obedience, which was incredible. Incredible. We talked about how God literally sent the animals to him. Noah didn't know that that was going to happen. He was just ready to follow instructions. God literally just sends animals to him. What I want you to know about Noah is he was not perfect. Okay? He wasn't perfect. Why do I want to point that out? Because in a lot of these accounts in the Bible, we think in some instances, we think that the stories are about people who are perfect. God chooses really imperfect people, really unlikely candidates. Now, it does say that he found favor with God because he was a just man. It does talk about that, but he still wasn't a perfect man. So once they leave the ark, the ground is dry. They go back and they begin to repopulate the earth. It starts to talk about in Genesis chapter 9, verses 20 through 21. It talks about how there was an account where Noah had there was a comment that just went by and I just missed it. I'm sorry. I can't see it. It's gone. There was an account of how he had a vineyard and he went into his vineyard and he started drinking. Well, Noah got drunk, okay? And he passed out in his drunken state. And one of his sons, one of them saw him, they looked at him, and then he went and told his brothers about it. And so there's more to the story, but this is what I want to point out. So, Noah, righteous man, found favor with God, just man, can't control his alcohol. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't perfect. Literally, God can do some of the most miraculous things with imperfect people. And you guys know that already, but I feel like it's imperative to point out something that we can learn related to business. And again, but my credit is awful. God can still use you for business. You may be thinking, but I've been bad with money in the past. God can still use you for business. You may be thinking, but people don't really trust me very well. God can still use you for your business. You may be thinking, I don't know a lot of people. My network is so small. God can still use you for business. You may think, I'm not very influential. People just don't listen to me. God can still use you for a business. You may think my vocabulary, it's not really that expansive. Nobody's going to listen to me. I don't have anything to share that's worthwhile. How can I share something that's valuable? Who'll listen to me? God can still use you for a business. You may say, but I have such a checkered past, Amita. You have no idea. In my past, you have no idea. Exactly. He wasn't perfect. Isn't that cool? You have no idea what I've gotten into in my past. I may have a felony on my record. I may have misdemeanors on my record. God can still use you for a business. Business is spiritual. This book that I told you guys about, business is spiritual. This book explains it in such great. Business is spiritual. God wants you to prosper. He wants you to be obsessively concerned with serving his children. We are all his children. When we become obsessively concerned about the needs of others, do you not think that pleases God? Do you not think it does? It absolutely does. So, in all your imperfections, God can still use you. I knew this girl who, when she was younger, one, she did not believe in God at all, at all. I remember the story of how her mother asked her one day, "Do you even believe in God?" And she told her, "No, I don't. I believe in what I can see," because she was so incredibly intelligent and so incredibly smart, literally in the top 10% of her high school class. And so she graduated with honors. She graduated with literally almost straight A's. And so she was influential with her peers. People really looked up to her. But she told her mom with a very straight face, "I don't believe in God. I believe in what I can see. I can't see him. I don't really see what he's done. I in him." And so she goes on. She still doesn't believe in him. She goes to college. In college, she does okay, but she has some bouts with depression. And while she's having those bouts with depression, because life is just kind of closing in her, she sees some people closing in on her. She sees some people in a choir. Somehow or another, I don't know how. Interesting, right? Somehow or another, she became a part of a choir and she saw people, getting excited about God, the stuff that you would see in church, praising God, all that kind of stuff, catching the Holy Spirit, things that did not make any sense to her. And she literally said one day, "I wish I could feel what you guys feel, but I just don't." And she moved on with her life. They prayed for her that day and she moved on with her life. And so things start getting a little more challenging, of course, in school. Interesting thing about her, she gets, when she finishes up with school, she moves on to a career. She does exceptionally well in her career. One of her bosses actually told her, this is like the coolest thing. He said, "I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, you have it." And it was a charisma about her. People just really enjoyed spending time with her. She made people feel better in her presence than they felt outside of her presence. And all of this happened. And she didn't even believe in God. All of it. She still didn't believe in him. Unlikely candidate, right? Fast forward, things keep moving forward for her. She's doing really well. She's doing well, and then she starts a business. Business actually does well. She really has people look up to her. She's influential. All of this, and she still doesn't believe in God, right? Still doesn't. And then one day, her heart starts to turn a little bit. Her heart starts to say, "I'm interested in this God thing." She starts going to church a little bit more. She gets saved. She gets baptized in her 20s. Yes, she gets back to learn a little more. The more she starts to learn, the more she's excited about learning. Now her heart is starting to change a little bit for him. She's starting to change a little bit. And all of this after she's been blessed beyond belief, but still didn't believe in God all those times, all those years. It wasn't even that she and was willing, "God, I want to let you into my life. I want to be baptized." Fast forward, people have told her more than once, "People listen to you. You have a gift." She didn't pay attention to any of that. She just wants to learn more about him, please him. Then she starts to do things like, "You know what? I really want to um, live a Romans 12 lifestyle. I really want to, present my body a living sacrifice to God. I feel like that's my reasonable service. So I really want to work on my health because I want to have the energy to be able to do what it is that I think He might possibly be calling me to do. Maybe, possibly." God takes this literally, did not believe in him, who literally talked against him, who literally said, "I don't know what you guys are doing. and I think you're crazy, but I wish I felt some of what you guys feel. I just don't. Who literally felt nothing for him. He takes this same woman who now what she does is she inspires other people. She literally teaches people about how amazing God is, what he's done through her life. She is so incredibly transparent in what she shares with people because her biggest desire is that God is actually glorified and that it draws people closer to him. She's such an unlikely candidate, but she actually has a prayer call. She's a prayer call every single weekday morning that people actually come on to and they sit down and they pray with her. She's such an unlikely candidate, but she gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and spends time with God. This is who he called. Somebody that was just as imperfect, if not more imperfect than Noah. I could tell you more about her because I know her intimately. She is me. I didn't believe in him at all. See, God uses the simple things to confound the wise. And so, literally, Noah was not perfect, but he used him in such a miraculous way that thousands upon thousands of years later, we are still talking about him today. Why can't he do the same thing for you? That vision that he's giving you, that idea that he's giving you, you don't have to be perfect to execute it. You just have to be willing. That's it. You just got to be willing. And so the principles at work, there are principles in place. If you just have the faith, which is a principle, the Bible says that faith without works is dead. But the other part about this is you got to have faith to please God. If God gives you an instruction and you just have the faith to take the next step, just like Noah had no clue how he's going to get all these animals on this boat, no clue. But God starts to send the animals his way. And if you can just take that step and you can exercise your faith and be honest and let God know, I have no clue how you're going to do this, but I'm going to do what you're telling me to do. I'm going to listen to the instruction. I'm going to move forward anyway. And if you do that thing, I'm telling you, you're going to look up and have an account in your life that is so incredibly noteworthy that others will be influenced by you in a great way. Because, see, the Bible says that if he be lifted up, he will draw all men unto him. And that's what we do. We lift him up through our acts of service. We lift him up through our entrepreneurship. The great thing is that he uses those gifts that we have down inside of us that he placed there before the very foundation of the world to edify others, to serve his people. He will send everything you need to do his will. Yes, to serve his people, to lift him up, and so you can actually profit from it. So I want to invite you guys. Those are the two things that I wanted to talk to you about today, and there's more. I'm going to make sure that I leave a link to the blog. I'm going to make sure that I leave a link also. So if you'd like to join us for the very last meeting on Business Secrets of the Bible, trust me, it doesn't even matter if you're 100% caught up in the book. You'll be so happy that you read this book and you cracked this baby open. Trust me. Okay, trust me. You'll love it. So if you want to join us, I'm going to leave a link down below about how you can also register for that as well. And remember, join our community. If you are a Christian, a believer, a woman, an entrepreneur, join our community, the Christian Women's Business Academy on Facebook. If you'd like to learn a little bit more and operate a biblical business, you want to fund kingdom projects, you want to belong to a community of women who get you, who understand you, who will support you, and who will continue to encourage you, join us there. That's exactly what we do. I'll make sure the link for that's down below too. You'll be able to grab all of those things. And then lastly, I am a Christian women's business coach. Whenever you're interested in that, that book is amazing. You're interested in learning how to go from that void, dark place in your business to clarity, then definitely we can connect. You can email me. It would be my email address is going to be down below too, but it's dmcgee@damitamcgee.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the very first live video on YouTube. We made it through it, you guys.